I waited for the receptionist to call my name over the intercom. I was a little surprised when she looked at me, smiled, and said, "Mr. Foster will see you now, Mr. Kite. Please take the elevator to the 4th floor and then go through the door on the left." I knew that George Foster was the franchise manager of Eastern Security, a firm specializing in gathering information for a fee. I knew from my internet research that the company had more than 50 offices in the eastern United States. The elevator door opened immediately, and soon I knocked lightly on the heavy wooden door. Then I turned the knob and entered. "Mr. Kite!" exclaimed the well-dressed man behind the desk. He stood up quickly and walked over to greet me. He held out his hand, and I felt the strength of his grip as we shook hands. "Please take a seat and tell me what Eastern can do for you today," he continued. I sat down in the suede chair and carefully formulated my words. "I'm interested in hiring your company to look into something for me, Mr. Foster. Honestly, I thought I'd be doing business with someone a little lower than you in the corporate food chain. I read the name on the door. You're the VP of the company and manager of this branch. I still like to personally serve as many customers as possible, Mr. Kite. It allows me to keep my hands on the pulse of the company, as well as understand how I can improve our procedures and services," he said immediately. "Our company prides itself on its unobtrusive and professional approach. I want our branch to meet the highest standards." "That's very reassuring," I admitted. "I'm afraid my situation may seem a bit trivial for a man of your position. I want to hire your company to determine if my wife Monica is having an affair." "It's one of the basic services we provide, Mr. Kite. It certainly doesn't seem trivial to us," Foster stated. "May I ask, have you already found out that your wife has been unfaithful to you? Is that your suspicion, or are you just concerned for no good reason? I think you have this problem a lot. I can't prove anything, and I could be completely wrong, but Monica seems to be acting strangely lately. She's gotten busier, stays later at work, and has to travel more. Even when she's home, she goes to work on the weekends. Even on the 4th of July, for an hour, she went to the office," I blurted out. "I just want to know what's going on. Maybe this is nothing more than an attempt to succeed in business. I just need to know for sure." "I understand your concern," Foster assured me. "We do it all the time. Sometimes the wife does cheat, but usually the husband draws the wrong conclusions. Let's hope that's the situation you're in. I'll need to meet you at your home when your wife isn't there and place some hidden devices to monitor her actions. What time is convenient for you, Mr. Kite?" "Wow, you're going to come to my house and spy on me yourself, Mr. Foster?" I was surprised. "Don't you have a technician or someone you send to do that sort of thing? I wouldn't expect a man in your position to do the work himself." "That's why we're so successful," the man behind the desk smiled. "As I said, I like to personally handle practical matters. If one of our employees tries to tell me that something can't be done or something won't work, I'll know if they're right or if they're bullshitting me." "That makes sense," I agreed. "I read on your website that I will get a written report, and for a fee I can get the report on DVD as well. I want to go with that option. If there is any cheating, I want to be able to throw the evidence in her face. That would make the divorce worse for the perpetrator, wouldn't it?" "Yes, provided your wife is doing something wrong, Mr. Kite. I caution you against jumping to conclusions. Let us do what you pay us to do, please." "That's what you came to us for, isn't it?" Foster asked. "Yes, of course. I didn't mean to get ahead of your investigation," I apologized. "It's just that the very thought of Monica having a lover makes me angry and tense. I need to know the truth before I do something or say something I'll regret later." "We'll get on the case and you'll know the truth soon, don't worry," Foster promised. "I need you to answer a few questions and sign a few forms giving us permission to put your house under surveillance and have access to your personal records such as phone and credit cards." I spent the next half hour answering the entire list of questions Foster asked me. I studied him while he wrote down my answers. He was a large man, tanned, athletic-looking. He seemed self-assured and very competent. He seemed to really know his business. I'd like to pay by card, I told him when he asked about payment. We accept credit cards, of course, Mr. Kite. You need to consider that your wife may find out that you hired the service to investigate her. Does she have access to that card statement? He asked. Technically, yes. But Monica never pays the bills and rarely looks at the statements. That won't be a problem, I replied. She'll never know about your service until I strike. Well, of course, if she's fooling me. Having finalized all the paperwork, we agreed to meet at my house on Friday at noon. Monica had already informed me that she would be working late that day. At least she called it work. I left Eastern State feeling that I had accomplished my task. Foster promised to have a full report, including a DVD, within 3 weeks. That would fit perfectly with my plans for Monica. I had a hard time keeping my suspicions from Monica. The only thing that made it even remotely possible was that she had paid very little attention to me for the past few months. I could grow a frog on my ass and cut off my dick, and she'd never notice. Now I had a time frame for the task at hand, and I felt I could last that long, albeit with some effort. That night, Monica managed to cook dinner, which was unusual. When I asked her about it, she seemed annoyed. Don't make a big deal of it, she warned me. You're doing everything you can to get ahead at work. You have no reason to resent my success, Bill. My work is as important to me as yours is to you. I don't have a problem with that, Monica. It's just that you haven't been around much lately, I replied. I rarely work on weekends and never on holidays. Time is more important than money, especially when you have enough money. We can never have enough time. Well, thanks for spouting your silly platitudes at me, Monica snapped back. I bet that's something Confucius didn't even think about. I realized that my words of infinite wisdom were not being heeded, so I grabbed a beer from the fridge and went into the living room to watch the news. The very next day at work, I was called into the office of the president of the company. I was in the middle of a promotion at an advertising agency. I was pretty good at what I did, which was making up crap that made products look and sound better than they really were. We've been watching you work, Kite, the president and CEO of the company said, and I always wondered why the hell he couldn't address me by my first name. You've shown yourself to be innovative and independent, but also a team player. I get it, this guy has been in advertising longer than me. Talking by throwing more crap on, essentially saying nothing. He's really good at it. And that was what I was looking forward to? You've been promoted to vice president, Kite. Congratulations. You'll be in charge of several of our most profitable accounts, he continued. You'll have your own office with 12 employees. I'll make the announcement this afternoon. I politely thanked this barrel of lard for bestowing such an honor on the most undeserving and left the office with a smile. Things were finally falling into place. What a shame Monica had to lose her way. After 24 years of marriage and 2 children, she deserved to share in my accomplishments and the financial rewards associated with them. True to his promise, my boss announced my promotion, and by the time I returned from lunch, people were starting to kiss my ass. I shook hands and smiled as the men sucked up to me. The ladies suddenly found me attractive. How many times had I myself sucked up to a guy I'd always thought was an asshole after hearing he'd been promoted? Now I was the asshole myself. That was great. Friday found me showing Foster my house. He had placed tiny devices in different parts of our shack. He was efficient, but neat. By 3 p.m., he was packing up his tools. I just got a nice promotion. And next Monday and Tuesday, I need to be at the company's headquarters in New Jersey, I explained. Sounds like a good time for Monica to scratch that itchy spot, if you catch my drift. Well, if she scratches anything, we'll write it all down. Foster smirked. Your company has a very good reputation, Mr. Foster, I continued. As a professional employee, you can guarantee that you will record any infidelity of my wife in this house, can't you? I absolutely guarantee it, Mr. Kite. I'm very good at what I do. If your wife strayed from your house, we'd have proof for you. Rest assured, he promised. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, I admitted. Now we'll see if the mouse takes the bait. They made me vice president at work today, I told Monica that evening. That means a big pay raise. We'll be able to have a nice vacation and buy some things for the house. I knew they'd recognize your talents, Bill, Monica cooed. I think we should have a party on Saturday the 15th. We'll celebrate our 25th anniversary and your promotion at the same time. How about that? Monica, I'm touched. What a great idea. We'll have your family and a bunch of my relatives over. The kids can come home from college. This is an event people will remember for a long time, I proclaimed. Don't get too carried away, Bill. It's not exactly the second coming, Monica grinned. But it will be a momentous occasion. Every once in a while, Monica would turn into the woman I had married years ago. However, those times were fewer and fewer. I pondered my situation as I drove east on Interstate 80 to my company's headquarters that Monday. Would Monica be able to betray me while I was gone? In my house? In my bed? Would she be so self-centered and stupid? Does she really think I'm that stupid? I had questions, and I realized I would have all the answers in a couple of days. It was 3 days before our party, and Foster returned to my house, taking out all of his electronic devices. I accompanied him as he went from room to room. Are you sure Monica didn't have any male visitors, make any unusual phone calls, or do anything that could even slightly be construed as deception? Re-questioned a third time. Believe me, Mr. Kite, Foster laughed. Your wife makes Mother Teresa look like a disgusting character. She's not having an affair. When do I get the report and the DVD? I asked. You still want the DVD even though there's nothing even remotely unacceptable to show? Foster asked. I paid for the damn thing and I want it. I'll find some use for it. Years from now, I'll watch it and guffaw, I replied. Okay, it's your money. It'll be ready for you to pick it up tomorrow afternoon. Foster shrugged. Long after Foster left the house, I sat in my home office and pondered my situation. He stated that Monica hadn't cheated on me or welcomed lovers or even friends into the house when I was away. What would Monica do if she found out about the surveillance? It looked like she would be furious and use this as an opportunity to punish and humiliate me. I had to be prepared to thwart her efforts. I couldn't get rid of the thought that I was involved in what looked more like a mortal combat than a marriage. By 11 o'clock, guests began to gather for our party. By 1 o'clock, almost all the relatives and friends within a 50-mile radius were enjoying clams, fried chicken, lobster, and steaks. We splurged well for the occasion. Everyone was having a great time, and then Monica decided to be melodramatic. Can I get everyone's attention? She shouted through the noise. All eyes turned to her. It has come to my attention that my loving husband has recently hired an agency to monitor my activities to determine if I'm having an affair. Apart from a few sighs, the gathered crowd did not utter a word. I accidentally opened the mail yesterday and discovered that our card had been charged a large amount of money by the spy company. I made some phone calls and found out that Bill hired them to determine if I was cheating on him, Monica hissed. I sensed her venom. I was told that Bill was even provided with a DVD of my actions. You can imagine how shocked and disappointed I was when I found out about Bill's distrust of me and invasion of my privacy, Monica complained. I knew she would want to humiliate me, but she was better than I could have imagined. I just stood silently in my seat and took the brunt of her verbal assault. So, Bill, my devoted, loving husband, where is that disc? I think everyone here needs to see the results of your spying and judge who hurt who. We'll watch it on that damn big TV you were so insistent on buying. Everyone's here and ready to watch it, she growled. Honey, I don't think it would be a good idea to air our dirty laundry in public, I said soothingly. Why don't we watch it in a more private setting? It's our anniversary. You tried to blow up my ass by practically accusing me of being a whore, and you want to get away with it? I demand that you show everyone here that you found out about my infidelity, you goddamn ferret. I haven't seen this show yet, and I can't wait to enjoy it, Monica screamed. I shrugged, reached into my breast pocket, pulled out a DVD and showed it to everyone. Then I walked over to the player and put it in. I walked to the far end of the room with the remote and pointed it at the player. The image appeared a few seconds later. Monica and Foster were sitting in our living room. "You mean he hired you to find out if I was having an affair?" Monica laughed. "What are the chances of that happening? What are the odds that this asshole will make a payment to us on your card? You have an excellent chance of accidentally discovering that he's spying on you," Foster replied. "In that case, I'll crush him like a couple walnuts," Monica grinned. "I'm a trained professional." Foster pretended to pout. "That dumb bastard wanted the best, so he turned to me. That's why his company used us for some covert background checks on employees who are promoted to high positions. We actually dig deeper into their personal accounts and backgrounds than more legally fearful firms. That's how I met you that fateful day, remember? I'll never forget it, and how determined you were to seduce me." Monica grinned. "Was I worth the effort?" I noticed that Monica began to shrink as the events unfolded on the big screen in living color and surround sound. "You can be sure of that. Now come here, whore," Foster insisted. Monica's face suddenly appeared on the screen. She was smiling. Sex scenes appeared on the screen. The audience was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Suddenly, Monica found her voice and brought everyone back to the present. "You miserable bastard," she shouted at me. "You set me up. Turn the damn thing off now. Everybody get the hell out. Now!" Saliva flew from Monica's mouth as she screamed. Her face was purple, and it looked like the veins in her face were about to burst. Her mother and father rushed to her as she began to faint. They half carried her out of the room. After a couple minutes, my 2 kids and my parents were the only people left in the room with me. "What are you going to do, Daddy?" my daughter asked. "This is a freaking mess." "You just saw what your mother does, Rachel," I replied sadly. "Her words today seem even more despicable than her actions lately. She wanted to torture me to make me suffer because of reasonable suspicion. She hasn't loved me for quite some time. I think you know that. I'm done with her, and I'm going to get on with my life, dear. Perhaps you can persuade her to get some help. I don't think her words and actions are in line with the Monica I married, but that's no longer my problem. I'm sorry. I've discussed this situation with a very good legal team. I hired a detective firm a while back that was recommended to me by a college buddy. When I first became suspicious, I asked them to keep an eye on your mother. I was stunned when it turned out that she was having an affair with an agent of a firm hired by my company to check up on me. I was being considered for an important position, and they wanted to get all the dirt on me, so they hired Foster from Eastern Security. At that point, I decided I wanted to destroy his career. I hired him to determine if your mother was cheating on me, knowing all along that she was cheating on me, and it was with him. I now have him on record as a representative of the company that gave me a false report, and with an admission that he probably broke the law when he ran his rather harsh background checks on me for my employer, I summarized. My legal team tells me that my company should have notified me and even had me sign an authorization for my background check. They also tell me that Eastern Century has deep pockets and is in a sea of shit because of their agent's behavior. He seduced your mother during his background check on me, then accepted payment for a report on her actions when he was personally involved with her, and then knowingly lied to me in his report. I have been assured that these companies would rather want to straighten things out before the truth hits the papers. This really isn't like our anniversary party, I grinned. It's much more like my retirement party with full benefits.